The Roots of Success podcast is for the landscape professional who's looking to up their game. We've got a brain trust of experts to help you nurture the roots of a successful business and grow to the next level. This is the Roots of Success.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Roots of Success, and I'm your host, Tommy. And boy, we've got an awesome guest, my friend, Ross Day from Oasis Landscape in Atlanta, Georgia. My good friend and super awesome, hilarious, fun dude to be around and socialize. We're going to start this off right. Just kind of jump right into the cold water, right? Welcome to the show as I kind of
Thanks for having me. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Hey, Ross. All right. Look, so we want to get to know you. You've been involved in Oasis for a long time, over a decade. You and Kevin and the entire organization has just done a lot of great stuff. I visited you guys. I kind of snuck into your facility as long as when I was with somebody else in Atlanta, and I was like, I got to see your place. And you just opened your arms and the doors and said, come on, check us out. And we were there, and we had to hurry up to the airport. So what I want to know most, and probably our audience, is like, how did you get into landscape? I know you went to Georgia State.
I did.
Right?
I went to Georgia State. Yeah.
Georgia State, and got a business degree. And all of a sudden now you're landscaping. Like, what the heck happened here? Did you lose a bet or something?
No. So the degree at Georgia State was really more to facilitate growing the landscape company.
Okay.
Like most of the people in our industry, I started at a very young age. I was 14 years old. My dad said, I will not buy your first car. You can buy your first car. I will pay insurance and gasoline into your first wreck. And I got in a wreck 10 days after I got my driver's license. So that didn't last very long.
Good job.
So at 14, my dad told me I had to save up money for a car. And I didn't want to be broke. I wanted to save up money for a car. So I was cutting grass in my neighborhood. A guy stopped me. We started doing his house, like, typical everybody does. And then what really pushed me over to get into the industry is my mom's best friend lived in a neighborhood down the street. My dad put a little push mower in the back of a Dodge Intrepid. We would drive to their house on Saturday morning. Dad would get me out of the car, and I would cut the grass while he read the newspaper and drank coffee. He helped me put it back in. He never helped me on the yard, and that's kind of how it started. So I started cutting his yard, and then it was a Saturday morning, and this lady stopped and said, my bum husband didn't do our yard. Can you come do it? I have a party tonight. Went over then cut her yard, and that happened to be one of the largest landscape companies in the city. It was the president of that company's house, and he forgot to have his crews do the yard.
Oh boy.
So at 16 years old, he kind of took me under his wing. He was kind of a mentor of mine. He told me at a very young age, before getting into college, anybody can draw circles like Chris Pinchek, but very few people can run a landscape company, go get a business degree. So that's what I did. I went and got a business degree. I grew my company up. And then we talk about our successes, but don't talk about our failures. In 2008, when the market crashed, I lost some contracts, and I was a real cocky young kid who thought I'd, just sell some more. And I didn't sell more. I lost contract after contract after contract because Brightview, or Brickman at the time, came and took everything over. So I ran a maintenance company. I talked to a consultant who was a friend of ours, who happened to be a friend with Oasis and Kevin. And I joined forces with Kevin 10 years ago. I sold half my company to somebody else, the other half to Kevin. I was supposed to hang out and transition everything, and then just never left. And so here I am 10 years later. We got over 100 team members and 2 branches. When I joined, there was probably 24 people in the whole company. So we had some great growth over the past 10 years.
Wow. Just the story of how things unfolded. That's an interesting story. I got a landscape architecture degree, and then, did a lot of design work for the last 5-6 years, and then got on the operations. I kind of wish I took your route. I wish I got like a 4-year business degree with a master's in LA. That would have been smarter. I think I would have been more advanced at the end of the day, because what they don't teach you a lot, or what you learn a lot, is business type things,
right?
Like how to make money, right? Those types of things. And so I'm sure you've learned a few things in school, and then that has sort of pushed you forward along the way.
Well, part of me going to college was more of just to learn how to have relationships. We're in the relationship industry.
Mm-hmm.
And so it wasn't The schooling at first, when I was at Georgia State, I went 5 days a week. And by the time I was done, I was taking night classes because the company got so big that I couldn't go every single day to college. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the networking part of it. I don't know if I enjoyed the schooling part of it as much, but I did enjoy the networking, and it helped me understand that, we run a service business first. It doesn't matter whether we're cutting grass or spreading chemicals. It's a service business. And
Yeah.
I like to think that we are a business that happen to provide landscaping, not a landscaper that happens to have a business.
Yeah.
And it really doesn't matter what we do as long as we put processes and procedures in place.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, same for me. I don't know if I was actually the college material. I felt like at some point my family was like, go to school because no one else really did in our
Right.
family. And that was a huge achievement. I kind of skated along and did the best I could. I was not an A student, barely a B at best, and most days. But at the end of the day, I was driven by hard work and a lot of effort and a lot of good attitude along the way to kind of persevere and move on. So let's talk about your role at Oasis. You're vice
Yeah.
president. That's a gigantic, big title. But talk about kind of your 10-year journey a little bit along the way. It didn't start out as vice president, I would assume, but you eventually worked your way. But talk about how you got to this role. And then secondly, talk about what does a vice president do at a company? It's probably anything and everything, but if you can help our audience understand what that role is for you.
Yes. So originally, when I got to Oasis, again, it was just to transition my company, the half that Kevin bought, the customers that Kevin
Did
bought.
you make those are your clients to start out with at Oasis?
No, so we already had, when I got to Oasis, there was 5 maintenance crews. They were routed incorrect. I ran a maintenance company. I didn't like installation. I didn't like chemicals. I liked maintenance. And this was going back to that mentor who said, you need recurring revenue. Don't worry about creating installations and pretty backyards. It seemed that every time I wanted to do that when I was running my show, that I would fail at it because I didn't have the landscape background, but I knew
Yeah.
the maintenance was rinse and repeat, make a customer happy, do what you say you're going to do. And it ended up being pretty good business at the time. Split in my location. Kevin didn't service the whole area, so I split the company in half, sold half to Kevin, half to somebody else. And when I got there, I was transitioning my clients that he bought over, making sure they didn't jump ship, and then also trying to help build up his enhancement book of business on his current, residential maintenance accounts. I was on a property trying to sell an enhancement, and while I sat on a property, 3 Oasis trucks drove by me in 35 minutes. So I went back to the office and I said, Kevin, I know you don't really know how to run a maintenance business, but 3 trucks in 1 road in 30 minutes is probably not efficient.
Something's off.
Yeah. So we shut the 5 crews down to 2.5 and then rerouted, worked on efficiencies. And now I think we run close to 22, 25 maintenance crews between 2 branches now. And so that was my whole deal. I mean, I can do the enhancement sales. I can do the installation sales. We have some great team members who are sales people and designers who can draw much better circles. And we have one that is the best landscape architect I've ever seen. I just don't have that. I can sell it. I can put the process in place. I can organize it. I can estimate it. I can't do the drawing part of it. So I leaned on our team. And then I realized my baby is really the maintenance side. So in the past 3 years, what I've kind of transitioned to running the maintenance as best as possible between both branches. And lots of team members help, but it's how do we guide them? Our main mantra now is to manage processes and lead people. And that's all I want to do. So when you ask about vice president, that's really what it is to manage processes and lead people. And it doesn't matter which part of the business it is. It can be in finance, it can be in the operations, our account managers, it can be, I am a great firefighter. It could be putting out fires. It's just manage process and lead people. And that's probably my daily mantra now.
Yeah. So, all right. Great analogy. You had 5 crews, reduced them to 2.5. You eliminated that or reduced dramatically that waste that we always see in landscape companies. Love it. So you streamline that. And that's kind of where that's your niche. I get it. Then you all of a sudden catapulted and fast forward all to 25 crews. That's massive growth in a decade. Talk about, if we're talking about maintenance here, talk about 2 to 3 things that made you successful, made the company successful in maintenance. What are those few things that you've learned in a decade at Oasis, but across your career?
So when we talk strictly growth, the first thing that happens, we've acquired 2 companies in the past 10 years, both small, very, very small mom and pop owner operated companies. When you buy a company, you're buying some equipment that's pretty, but it's just steel. But what you're really buying is team members that, that
Yeah.
are trained and understand what our industry is. It's hard to find those, as you know. And then you're buying a book of business that, probably 70 to 80% of it really falls in line with your core clients. But what it does is it opens the doors to other property managers, other HOAs, other businesses that you didn't have without purchasing that. So when we catapult over, we've had some great organic growth, but 2 acquisitions also helps that in the past 10 years.
Yeah,
And
and let
then,
me jump in here, Ross. This is
yeah,
fascinating because this goes back to what you originally said is you took crews from 5 to 2.5 by efficiencies, eliminating waste. And when you buy a small mom and pop, we'll sort of use that term, that's essentially what you're doing at the same time,
yeah,
right? You said, I can buy this group and I'm going to inherit these great people, great managers, and great clients, but we're going to become efficient and we're going to
yeah.
eliminate the waste. And I feel like that's what you did again in those 2
Well,
acquisitions.
yeah, most of the time when you have a company that's that size, they haven't figured out they need all the processes yet. That that's still the the owner operator, mom and pop, whatever you want to say, they're still working on going out and putting out fires themselves. They're still turning on and off irrigation clocks.
Yeah.
Heck, one of the companies we purchased, the guy was still mowing yards on a Saturday just to keep his crews afloat. With us, when they come involved, we can not only offer those team members access to stuff they don't have, whether it's better benefits, more time off, better equipment, more the technology that we run's a lot nicer than some of those because they just don't have, they
Yeah.
can't, they don't have the access quite yet. And so we're able to offer that to these team members. And then that creates efficiency that they weren't able to see just by having the growth, and that helps them quite a bit.
Yeah. What are a couple more? You got an acquisition that helped
Yep.
you get to 25. Is there any more that you would attribute to, or any processes that you really say this was the key?
Yes. So we run 2 branches, which we've mentioned before, 2 branches, but they're very different branches. One is a strictly commercial maintenance branch, and the other one's a heavier residential. How we set them up, thanks to McFarland Stanford, actually, is we talked to some of your team members and through our peer groups and realized on our commercial side, we can't have our account managers, we call them CRMs, customer relationship managers, also manage crews. So we give them a book of business. Their main goal is to work on relationships because, again, it's a relationship business. Work on relationships, sell enhancements to that book of business, keep client retention high, and make
Yep.
sure that the properties look good enough that when we have our business developers go try to sell, they have something they can go look at. We split their role and a field supervisor. So field supervisors manage efficiency, safety, quality, trucks, and team members. By splitting that, their bandwidth makes everything exponentially faster. Our guys can make sure the properties look better. They perform monthly audits on every single property. Our
Yeah.
enhancement goals went out the roof. We find more touches on a property, sells more on the property.
Yeah.
So that alone, with a constant line of communication, helps quite a bit. And that's driven the branches to exponentially grow because our clients understand we're always had their back. It doesn't matter what day it is, what time. You have a customer relationship manager who's going to answer any of your questions.
I love it. That's what we coach to all the time is taking the account manager, making them a relationship
Yep.
expert, the touch point expert, the enhancement sales, all of that, managing the client. And then the operations is handed off to the team, the production team. That's all the training, the hiring, the quality, executing the hours, all those types of operational things. quite frankly, that's two different types of people. That's like left brain, right brain.
It's very different. One has to be
Yeah.
understand that relationships are very important. The other one person just needs to get stuff done.
Yeah.
And the other thing by doing that, it also gives our team members out in the field, they can see a growth path. I can become a field supervisor and manage teams of 8 to 10 crews. Then after that, we have another level, and then you can get up to CRM. So it's a growth path for all of our team members when they land with us.
Yeah, that's great. That's kind of like, there's a little bit difference in us. I feel like you're more relationship,
Yeah.
right?
Oh
You're
yeah.
kind of like account manager heavier on that side a little bit. And I feel like I'm a little more dominant on the operation side. I feel like you and I would make a
100%.
great combo. I got some relationship too, but it's driven through operations more.
Yes.
And I think you are driven more like looking out for the client type deal. So have you had to find someone that was sort of a little bit different than your ways to sort of counterbalance that sort of that operation side a little bit more, or how does that work?
Yes. So one of our branches, we have a branch manager who does that. He's an operational guy. He's learned how to become relationship. But we test everybody when they come through. We try to figure out what they're good at. If they're good in operations, are they good in relationships? It is a different brain. It is a very different brain. I can do both. I don't like operations.
Yeah.
I've never enjoyed the operations side. But, you need both to get stuff done. And so the way I look at this is if I get metrics that are put in place for operations to make sure they're working, I don't have to worry about it. Just make sure you hit your metrics. After that, the rest is I can mess with and spend my time growing relationships.
Yeah. So what kind of metrics are you looking at in maintenance?
So obviously budgeted versus actual, that's the main thing. Everybody knows that if you're in the landscape industry, it's how many hours did you sell and how long did it take you to perform those hours. We have a quality metric we look. We have an auditing system that we use for all of our account managers. They go out, they audit the properties once a month. That gets sent down to the field supervisors. So if they see anything that has to be done, they can handle it with the crews. We're not shy about it. We actually send that audit to the customer, and it doesn't matter if it calls us out. If we have a weed that's 4 foot tall behind the juniper bed, that picture gets sent to the customer because that way they know we're out there. We're not shy about it. We'll let you know when we mess up. And then the idea is by the time the next audit runs around, you'll take the same picture and that one's well taken care, that area is taken care of. So that's it. We look at efficiency of cores. We look at enhancement sales, penetration on your book of business. Each account manager has a ratio they have to hit based on the accounts they have. Retention is extremely high. Enhancement goals. So you have an enhancement goal to sell, and then we have to perform them. We look at how much we're performing on enhancements per month on the maintenance side, and we do the same thing with design build. So it's it's more of just making sure material over and under, that's important, but you really can't control that. You hope you hit it most of the time. You're not overbuying. It's labor's 40% of our business. So if we can save 3%, it goes right to the bottom line. And when you're a maintenance company, it's the biggest part of the business. And so how do you manage labor effectively?
Love it. Got a couple little detailed questions with what you just mentioned here. Enhancement sales. How many enhancements, dollar value? What do you guys strive for? Is it sort of seasonal based, like depending on spring, summer, fall, winter, you sell enhancements? Is there a goal for each account manager? How do you monitor that along the way to hit goals? Like what are enhancement sales like in your organization?
So Atlanta is a little different market. We don't get to include flowers, mulch, or pine straw in the contracts. That's all after. So we consider that an ancillary enhancement. That is an enhancement that's usually going to happen on the property, whether our account manager talks to them or not. Most of the time, whether we had an account manager or not, they're going to call, they're going to do pine straw twice a year, they're going to do flowers twice a year, and they might do some mulch. So we have two buckets. We look at ancillary and we look at true enhancements. We budget for 2025 to say what months we know ancillaries are going to happen. We know that in May, or right after Easter is usually when flowers go in. We know October is when flowers go in.
Okay.
Those two budget numbers get put in there, and we expect our team to sell those.
Yeah.
July's pine straw, December's pine straw. We expect that. Then we go back and we look at our true enhancements, which are things that are safety concerns on a property, aesthetic concerns, or almost quality concerns, whether you have some sod that's bare, some
Yeah.
drainage areas. Those are considered true enhancements. And each account manager or CRM has a ratio for their book of business they're supposed to hit.
Yeah.
We try to say that we're going to do this month every single month. It doesn't always happen. We really look and go, on average, we need this much per month to hit our goals. You might have an account manager has a whale of a month and the other four are struggling, and then they pick it up the next month. It's just for the entire year. How are we trending? And we average about 40 to 50% penetration on the book of business.
Wow. Love it. I've never heard of that. I love the fact that you said these are like necessities that have to happen on our properties, which is really anywhere in the country you can imagine. It's essential for your property. It's not just like mowing grass and call it a day. And then you got another bucket that are truly enhancements. And I like how you break it all down between safety, aesthetic, quality type things. It's fascinating stuff. You mentioned the second branch. We have to cover this thing. The second branch. I think a lot of organizations really struggle, for a lot of reasons why a second branch, right? So I want to learn about why you came to that conclusion. Does it make sense? Is it not? At some point you had to say, oh my God, that's enough. Something's got to change at some point. And talk us through that sort of transition into another branch. The one thing that is extremely difficult, Ross, is to continue the culture of the second, third, and fourth branch, the same as the mothership, I'll call it, in Atlanta. That's the trickiest part. How did you guys navigate through that?
So the second branch was almost out of happenstance. We purchased a company it was right before all these M&As were really happening. So we're talking 6 or 7 years ago. We bought a company out there, owner operator. We found out after the fact. We bought it on March 28th. We found out after the fact, if we had not purchased it, he was shutting the place down on April 1st.
Oh.
So we bought, for lack of a better word, a turd. And so not only were the customers not being taken care of, the equipment wasn't taken care of, the team members were struggling to figure out what their direction was. When we bought it, I think we lost 45% of the book of business because customers were just so mad about a transition. They weren't happy in the first place. They sure as crap didn't want us on it. And so we threw everything we could, heart, soul, dollars, time, so it wouldn't fail, because we were on the hook for the money. It didn't matter. We had to
pay it
money.
anyways.
Exactly. So we did. And so we lost 40% of the book of business the first year. And now it'll do about half the revenue. It'll split about right about half of what the other branch does in revenue. So between the two companies, it does about half the revenue, which is great. But it's strictly maintenance, which the other branch is not. The other branch is heavy in design build. Bringing culture there was difficult. Culture is one of those terms everybody.
It is what it is.
Great. It is. And so it's how do you turn it around? And the other thing is you got to figure out who you have. We realized real quickly that team members up there are not the same nationality as the team members at our other branch. They think differently. They party differently. Yeah. They pray every morning. It's a very different atmosphere than the other. And if you go in guns a-blazing, you're not going to get any buy-in. So we really sat around for 3 to 6 months and just observed, just to see what they were doing right, what we considered they were doing wrong, and then started showing them why with us there can be more reach. And I think at the time there was 12 team members. I think 7 of them are still with us. Okay. The rest have gone on to other things. 2 of them started their own companies, which we completely promote. I mean, that's the American dream. So go do it. And for that matter, we send them business that is not in our ideal customer. They were great in helping us get to the next level. Having a second branch spreads you thin. I spend 60% of my week at one branch, and it depends on which branch it is during which week. So it's a lot. It spreads you very thin. What the best thing we did was get the right team members there. Right. We brought people from the main branch up there. Between account managers, the branch manager, we showed them that all of a sudden you have another platform to grow faster. because if you're in the main branch, you have a couple people you've got to jump over to get to where you want to be. This is ground level. And you showed we believed in some few key team members, and they really shined for us. And that branch is on track to do really well in the next 5 years.
No, I love it. I love it. So it's all about the culture at the end of the day, is getting it right. And I love your point about observe and why. That's like,
Yeah.
can we also do that in our own one business or our one location, right? Observe what's going on. I use this analogy all the time that the general manager that the gym I attend uses the four corners of the gym. And he's always observing the four corners at any given part of the day, night, evening, because he has an awareness of what is going on at any given point. He can see things that are not going well, bottlenecks of certain equipment here, who's using what, who's not, and figure out the reasons why we're here, because you got to continue this culture across multiple locations. And as you guys grow, you're going to get more locations. It's going to get trickier. So pulling people out of there makes a lot of sense. I love it.
Well, what you do there is you're also taking the team members that you have invested time with you and understand your culture, and that way you're not the dictator. You've got other people that have the buy-in, and they're spreading the buy-in without you having to be there, which is what happens at a branch when you're not there is truly what's going on. And so to have other people there that have the same culture, the same drive, the same mantra, manage people, and a managed process to lead people, is really, really important. So everybody's on the same page, and having extra people who understand that put into the other branch really helps. We did buy a third or second company 2 years ago, and we took that branch and we moved it over. So we had 3 branches for about a year, which that's even more. And the branch wasn't big enough to sustain itself, so we combined them.
Yeah. So are you there, or do you need to get there as far as managing the home base location versus the branch? There's a lot of same metrics that have to be watched. Like you mentioned, budget versus actual and all that. Can you see those metrics afar? So say you're at your home base office. Are you aware what's going on remotely, or do you got to physically go there to see how things are doing?
No, we can we use Aspire. So everybody, and a lot of people in the green industry use Aspire.
Yeah.
We've got metrics put in place that we can manage both branches. I hop off the call with you today, I can see how the branch is doing.
Yeah.
It's, again, just putting stuff in place that you don't have to be physically on site. But we have a status meeting every Monday that for the entire branch. Everybody gets in there, everybody explains what's going on in their life. We still have one-on-ones, which McFarland Stanford coaches. We do all of that, but you can still remotely see how the branch is going. What you can't do is you can't remotely feel how culture is. And so you still have to get there, walk around, see what's in the air, talk to people, see how their week's going, see what's hurting them. And half the time it's me. I'm bottlenecking something and I don't even realize I'm doing it. But metrics are one thing, but you still have to spend the time to be on site.
Love it. That's great stuff. I noticed you guys do residential commercial clients.
Yes.
A little tricky, I would imagine. It's not been like the easiest process. Talk about, I've got plenty of clients that are like maybe heavily in residential or heavily in commercial, and they want to dabble in it. They're just not sure. Tell me about that experience and how you guys have been able to build a company with both.
Started off as residential. That second branch that we bought, they had a church, and that was the first foray into commercial. It was a very large mega church they were doing. We lost the church right after COVID, or right coming out of COVID, and I cried. I physically cried. It was the biggest account we had, and if I was honest with you, we were losing our butt on it. But it was something to say that we did that church in that area, and we could put on our resume we had that church.
Yeah.
Losing that, I teared. What happened shortly thereafter was we had a HOA. It was a gentleman who was on an HOA board. He stopped us and said, "I can't do this. I thought I could. Can you bail us out?" We went over there. We bailed him out. The property manager didn't want anything to do with us. He hated us. And then we won him over. In a year's time, of his 15 properties, we were managing 13 of them. and then
Right.
got into it and blew it up and got bigger and bigger and bigger based on relationships and doing a good job.
Yeah.
And doing that got us the commercial side built up relatively quickly. Residential, we try to turn every one of our, because we have a heavy design build and residential, we try to
Right.
turn every one of those into a maintenance customer, and then just word of mouth. If I was honest, we are not promoting residential maintenance because we find the enhancements are too difficult. At a certain tier,
Point.
when you get a certain point, that ends up being a little better. So we are transitioning the book of business to be more of estate homes and commercial projects as we get larger. But we also know we got to pay bills. And so we keep these customers happy. We've had customers for 10, 15, 20 years. We will continue to do their yards. We will never say goodbye to them as long as they stay, happy with us. It's just it's different managed. Our Atlanta branch, the crews are managed by their account manager. So they manage the crew and a property, but they manage a smaller book of business. So it's
Okay.
about a third of the size. But it's a lot more hands-on, and decisions are quicker. You get paid faster in
Yeah.
residential, but the dollars and the longevity in the commercial world makes sense. I think as COVID shows you, the service sector is not going anywhere. People will still always have to have their yard cut. It's just making sure that they fit in with us as a company. Our margins are very small in maintenance, which most people understand. It's
Yeah.
how much other extras they're going to pay to have us do. And we make sure that that margin is the right level for us as a company.
Yeah. So there's a myth out there. You hit it earlier. You can't make money on maintenance. What are you doing? Right. That's that whole you're not going to make money on mowing grass. That is a load of BS. I'm tired of hearing about it. Residential or commercial. Okay. So tell me about this. You became profitable. Oasis is profitable in maintenance along with enhancements, but you got to make money in maintenance, and you can also make lots more money in enhancements. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so it goes back to budget versus actual. We manage that with our team. We have to. Every team member knows every single month. January 1 shows up. Here's how many hours you have for the year. Here's how you're trending per month, and our team knows to look at that. If we get halfway through the year and we realize we're not going to hit it, we'll go back to the customer and say, this is why we're not doing it. It can be that it was bid with a large lawnmower, and Miss Sally comes out and says, I hate the large lawnmower. Will you do a push mower? Well, our teams out there will make the customer happy. They will start cutting the yard with a push mower. Well, what they won't understand is that will blow our budgeted hours. So we'll go back and say, we have no problem doing that, but it's going to cost you X, Y, Z. We analyze, we make sure that the properties are profitable. Our margins are small. In the maintenance world, margins are relatively small, or you can't be competitive. So it's making sure that we understand our margins, understand how we're bidding, and then track what we bid. And we do that on residential and commercial. And then we make sure that we have an enhancement pot, and that's a separate budgeted versus actual. You've got to watch and make sure, because it can bleed from both.
Yes. Love it. Okay. I got something for you. You're a relationship guy through and throughout. Kind of funny story. This is going to get a little weird, but it's a great story. I think how I got introduced to you, I think we were at the same place. Our wives were together, drinking some wine and having fun. And the story goes like this. I had a procedure done at the end of a year.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. And let's say that procedure was going to happen because I've already met my quota and it needs to happen. And you caught wind and said, I've done that too. Cool. Sounds good. And a little care package showed up at my doorstep one day because you were a little sneaky behind the scenes, contacted my wife. I got a care package. Listen, I don't receive anything like that from anyone ever, but I thought it was the most hilarious thing that I had ever seen in my life. And I've shared that story to probably no less than a dozen people across my travels. Mind you being so funny about you sending me this care package, but most importantly, Ross, it was something to do with a relationship. We connected, we have a lot in common. We're goofballs, we like to have a good time. We work really hard, but you're very relationship driven. Expand on some of that, why you do this and why it's part of just your natural tone. You're always saying happy birthday to the peer group members. You're always saying hi. If I don't respond or if I don't text you in 6 months, you're like, what the hell's going on? Why does that mean so much to you?
It goes back to how I was raised. My mom and dad, my dad was from the Jersey Shore. My mom was from a farm in Cochran, Georgia. Yeah, you're telling me. So
Yeah, Jersey Shore.
very,
We know the TV show.
yeah, no, it
Yeah.
wasn't. It was the nicer part of the Jersey Shore. And then my mom was, cow tipping and farms in Cochran, Georgia. So very different upbringing
Okay.
between the two of them. My dad was a sales guy for international shipping companies. So it was always relationship based with him. I always saw that growing up. My mom actually sold for Oxford, which is a clothing line, and she was shipping stuff in my dad's containers across the ocean. And they basically taught me it's not who you are, it's who you know. And in learning that, as long as you're genuine in what you're doing, building relationships is almost easy. You just got to say hello and be nice to people, and once in a while catch them off guard with some funny gifts. I remember learning when I was younger, receiving a gift is fun, but giving it and seeing somebody smile is even better. And
Oh my
whether
gosh.
it's
Yes.
just paying a tab, or in junior year of prom, there were 10 people, and there was a couple sitting in the room, and they were all dressed to the nines. I mean, full, and they were in their late 80s. And she was wearing a gown and he was wearing a tux. The guy comes over to give us the bill, and he says, that couple over there took care of your bill. They come in here every year and they take care of a bill for somebody because somebody did it for them. And I
Wow.
remember in junior year thinking, I want to be able to do that, because that's the type of giving um, that's unforeseen, that we had no idea was coming, and has lasted a lifetime. I mean, I still talk about that story to this day. So creating an impact like that on somebody's life, a little dumb care package
Yeah.
has become a funny story.
Yeah.
Um, and it goes a long way, and it makes it so you're memorable without being memorable. And I like that.
Yeah.
And I always have. And it makes people feel good. I mean, this
Yes.
world is so messed up in so many ways. And to let somebody feel good for 30 seconds for what, $42, I think I spent on you. But
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
it's fun to
It's
see.
an appreciation at the end of the day. That's what we've done. We were picking up a tab a couple years ago for our crossing guard lady at our elementary school that my kids go to. And she's out there every single day, whether it's 150 degrees or 1 degree, rain, sleet, snow, you name it, making sure the safety of those kids get across the street to school
Yeah.
every day. We saw her at a restaurant. Wife's like, we're going to cover the tab and we're going to walk away.
Yep.
That's it. Like, she's
It's
so appreciative to take care of our kids like that, that those types of things just kind of like are expected now these days.
Yep.
It's just an expectation. But later we did tell her that was us, at some point. But that's the level of care and tradition that I really believe in. And it's not just personal, but it's in business along the ways. Those relationships go on forever and ever and ever.
I just think that if I take care of the people around me, even if it's giving and the old cliche, give the shirt off your back, it doesn't have to do that. Just listening, giving some time. And um,
Yeah.
I remember when I went through a really rough patch of my life, and one of my best friends got up. And I know you're a gym rat. He got up with me every morning at 5:30, and we worked out from 5:30 to 7. And as I came out of that rough patch, I said to him, I was like, I really appreciate you getting up with me. And he goes, I hated getting up in the morning.
Yeah.
I couldn't stand it, but you needed somebody for you, and I was there for you.
Wow.
And then a year and a half goes by, and he went through a rough patch, and I was there. And
Trade.
it's one of those that if you surround yourself with people who will do that for you, life becomes a lot easier. And
Yeah.
whether it's a small gift or a phone call, or a peer, or a peer group member, or even a competitor in the industry, if you need something, I've got it. I'm going to help you, because there's going to be a day when I call and you'll answer the phone for me. And that, if you can live by that, the doors seem to open a lot easier for you.
I love it. Good stuff. So I got, as we sort of wrap up here, I got a couple more things for you.
Yeah.
Tons of notes. I want to do a few Tommy's takeaways, a little
Okay.
tease here, right? So I love the fact that you learn the hard lessons of contracts during, the '08 market crash, what those experience involved in, and translating your business into Oasis. So love that side. Your idea of eliminating waste in maintenance is awesome because
Yeah.
it comes down to budget versus actual. I like the small acquisitions of the small guys inheriting good team members. And I love this enhancement type deal. More touches equal more sales. So it's a once a month property audit with an accountability checklist that the entire company sees and the client sees to hold each other accountable and see the progress of that maintenance client. 100% agree with that. I also love your idea of enhancement sales between the must-have ancillary type sales and the awesome enhancement sales that are needed throughout the year for safety concerns, quality control. It can be drainage issues. It can be party prep, those types of things. Budget versus actual and maintenance has to happen. There's not enough said there. The second branch, my summary of the second branch is culture and metrics. You got to have culture, a good culture, and you've got to have metrics. Otherwise, you can't have that remote or second or third location.
No, we haven't figured it all out. Trust me. I got an email yesterday about something that we're still working on that is a metric and it is about culture. And, we are still struggle on day-to-day stuff, but at least if you have a core that that we're going to take care of each other and we know we have to have these metrics to figure out what we're doing, you can build on that. Again, it's managing processes and leading people. And leading people is culture and processes is metrics. If you manage process and lead people, you can figure that out.
Culture, metrics, and processes. Just give me that all day long and I'm going to sign up. I love it. Ross, any sort of lessons learned, takeaways? There's a lot of good at the very end of that is about relationship based. Anything I'm forgetting? Any words of wisdom, advice? What's something that you live and die by?
Again, it's all about people. We are in a relationship business, and the relationships aren't just with our customers, it's with our team members. At our Atlanta branch, there are 4 landscape companies within a half a mile. 4. And so anybody can leave our office and go left or right and go work at a different company. Why do they keep coming back to us? And so there was our wedding photographer owns a very large camera company. And he used to say, if you took care of your customers and you take care of your team members, the profit will come. If you lose sight on those two, and then we got even more granular, we decided customers choose to come to you, but team members choose to come to you. So you better have your team members right so they understand to make the customer right. And in that way, the more customers come. So if you focus back on culture, and it's not gimmicks, it's true, how do they feel when they show up? It's not, oh, we have a prettier shirt or a nicer hat or a bag clip we put on tortilla chips. It's what do we do that they want to come hang out with us instead of the 3 other companies down the street? If you're true to that, everything becomes a lot easier. So it's just, it's just taking care of the team members and then making sure they understand that they have a voice, they have an area to grow, and then the rest just kind of falls in place. And you're going to make mistakes. And, our biggest thing is every one of us makes mistakes. Is how fast do we get up and fix them? And whether that's a customer or a team member, hell, I've got so much crap I got to figure out in the next 10 days. And so if you're not making mistakes, you're not trying. And
totally.
And we keep learning. We have good years and we've had bad years. COVID was great and COVID stunk at the same time. So we're excited to see what the next 10 years show for Oasis.
That's great. People. It's your number one asset. It's not the piece of equipment. It's not the facility. It is the people, the team that you have built. Take care of them. And what a better situation. Put yourself in Ross's shoes at Oasis and go, I'm within minutes of 4 competitors, left or right, if you manage your business to that level, they have to be good at culture, good at building teams and taking care of people along the way. Otherwise, they don't have anything. So it's a mandatory item in their business. So think about your business and going, If I go left or right within a couple of minutes, they can go anywhere they would ever want to. So keep them from leading. We got to build a great team that everyone rows in the same direction. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah, man. I appreciate the time today.
Ross, it's been a pleasure, bud. You're a good friend of mine. Thank you so much for joining us on this great morning. Lots of great content, and we'll see you soon, buddy.
Great. Talk to you soon, man.
Ready to take the next step? Download our free profitability scorecard to quickly create your own baseline financial assessment and uncover the fastest ways to improve your business. Just go to mcfarlandstanford.com/scorecard to get yours today. To learn more about McFarland Stanford, our best-in-class peer groups, and other services, go to our website at mcfarlandstanford.com, and don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. See you next time on The Roots of Success.